statements to cover the entire UFO phenomenon over the past 20 years.
To the show. My name's Ty, and I'm the host of Total Disclosure. We are back to this week. We usually going to do it on Wednesdays, but this week pushed back a little bit on Thursday to get into that routine. Wednesday on YouTube and Sunday is the podcast, and that's going to be the schedule going forward. Before we get into tonight's show, obviously the title kind of says it all. We're not going to be targeting Mick West specifically, but I figure I'd poke fun at him because it's fun. And he's kind of a dickhead sometimes. Just kidding. I love you. Listen, before we get into anything, skepticism, anything, I've always actually truly respected Mick West in his adventures. As far as skepticism goes, I think that I think we need it in the community. I think it's good for a balance, someone to be a critical thinker and to, be the yin to the yang. And Mick West is a well-known skeptic in the UFO community who is known for his efforts to debunk alleged UFO sightings and paranormal claims. Now, he can be kind of controversial in his explanations, which is why I think some of the friction happens because I feel like sometimes I'm reading his explanations and they're a little bit more outrageous than just an alien, right? And to break it down to basics, let's just say alien, for lack of a better term. That it seems like that would be the more the easier explanation, the simpler one, right? So I think a lot of the friction comes from the way he goes about his explanations and tweeting. And just today he shared something about the balloons and going after Ryan Graves, Stephen Greenstreet going after Ryan Graves and others calling them wacky and saying they're outlandish claims. Steve and Mick, what I have the biggest problem with is that you've never been in a fighter jet, right? You've never been in those predicaments. You've never been up, flying through the skies weeks on end. You don't know what these people have seen. You're simply taking the data that's presented to you and then, going about it from there. And I find that most of the time, at least in Mick's case, he starts from a biased standpoint and works his way backward and gets to his conclusion so it fits his narrative. That's what I'm seeing. And I've seen this troll aspect in the movie community. I saw it with the Snyder fans. They see only what they want to. And lately, that's how I've been thinking about Mick. And when I first got into the community years and years ago, I looked at him as someone who I could trust. If there was a sighting, and you didn't quite believe it, you go to Mick and see what he said about it, but you'd see what everyone else had to say about it as well, right? Different points of view are always good for everybody. And I think if we surround ourselves with people that just tell us what we want to hear, that's going to be a problem. So yes, we do need people like Mick West, like Stephen Greenstreet. We do need skeptics, but we need skeptics that are also scientists, right? Gary Nolan, people are attacking Gary Nolan, calling him a grifter. No, that guy's not a grifter. He is one of the greatest minds and scientists in the world. But I'm not here alone. I got off on a little tangent. I'm here with two other guys, Tom and Love His Perspective. So, guys, I didn't mean to go off on a little rant, but it's been kind of aggravating me today.
It's all right, Ty. It's okay, man.
Yeah, it's all good.
We're here for you, Ty.
I want to ask you guys a question. Yep. What do you truly think of Mick, like of skeptics in general? What do you think their role in the community should be?
I think we need skepticism, like you were saying, but I feel, again, and I mean everything that I'm going to say tonight from a place of respect, not attacking anybody's character. I feel that coming from the mindset, like you were saying, of you start off with, all right, here's a piece of footage. I'm just going to immediately assume that this is not a UFO. I feel like just simply change that to, I don't know what this is, and I'm going to take wherever the facts lead me. I think that's just like my mindset, and I think that's a good place for anyone to be.
Well, here's one of the things that he shared earlier, right? That's going to be really small for most people, but basically, you can see from the highlighted portion that it's talking about the balloons, right? And Mick goes on to say it's increasingly clear that many objects thought to be UAP or UFOs were actually balloons, even the ones that seem on radar to be moving very fast. Now, listen, one thing you'll hear ufologists or UFO researchers, whatever you want to call them, the first thing that most of them will say is that we understand that 95%, maybe more, maybe 98%. Fuck it. Let's go to 99%. 99% of UFO sightings are bullshit, right? They're not bullshit like the people are making it up, but most of them could probably have prosaic explanations. Atmospheric phenomenon, stars, planets. We see what's happening with Venus and what's the other one? Venus and Jupiter?
I believe it's Venus and Jupiter, like that conjunction, right?
We see what's happening all over the country, all over the world. People are reporting UFOs when it's just two planets, right? I saw it and I was like, holy shit, that really does look like something crazy because they're so close.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's crazy you mentioned that because I was wondering what the fuck that was too, man.
Yeah. So, but we all understand that. And 99%, but it's the 1%. So saying something like this, oh yeah, they're all, most of them are balloons, and cool, we get it, Mick. Like, we get it, right? A lot of them are not UFOs, but there is that 1% that we need to focus on, study, and research so much more with the greatest minds in the world on this topic. And the more that people like Mick and Stephen Greenstreet and fucking even John Greenwald sometimes, you guys are only inflicting more mud into the water by talking like this. It's not necessarily that you're wrong, because you're right, but you bolster it like it's all 100% when that's not the case. And yes, he said, UFOs exist, people see them. Well, you don't talk like that in your Twitter posts, Brady. Like, yeah, you might be willing to have a conversation in person, but the shit you post does not come off that way. So, I understand that, he says it right here. UFOs do exist. I mean, people see them all the time. I just think it's unlikely that UFOs are non-human intelligence. I think that is the most arrogant I can't even get the words correct, probably. I think that is the most, God, I had the word too. I guess I'm just as bad, but that is a real dangerous way to think, right? If we were to assume, or to not even contemplate the possibility that we're at that like Avi Loeb situation, where Avi Loeb suggests, right, that it could be potentially, might not be, this extraterrestrial. Could it be apart from an extraterrestrial ship? And everybody points and fucking ridicules them. And that we're just circling back to that.
I don't think we should be doing that on either end. I think people are entitled to their opinions. Like I wouldn't call Mick West's mindset, I don't know, dangerous. I feel that
I think it's a one-sided way to think.
Right. I can't think of like a one-word way to describe my opinion on it, but I feel that it's like you're missing out. Like, I would love to see Mick West go through like case reports from back in the day, like anecdotal evidence. And I get it. Like, we need better evidence than that. But there are some things that have occurred that were shared by seemingly extremely credible witnesses, honest people, that it's like, how is that? How are these things not non-human intelligence? I mean, some things that were like, when people see beings, that has happened, like the Varginha case. Then what was that then? In my opinion, again, I don't know. I don't know how what else would you call that?
Virginia case, like even if we just take that one case, say that's the only case that ever happened.
Okay.
That is still one. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
One more than we thought was possible.
Right.
So why are we not at least open to the idea that it could be legitimate? Right?
Because I don't think he's seen from his perspective. This is where you, Love, and a lot of people like in our camp are going to differ really strongly from Mick, Green Street, etc. They need a heavier dose of concrete evidence before they are willing to take that leap within their own minds. And I look, I respect that. I do. This is why we have to push for that evidence now, because without it, they're going to stay on that side of the fence, in my opinion.
And I think, Love, to give you a little bit background, Mick West is, he runs a website now. Pardon me, I forget the name of the website. I'll get it in a second. I have my list of his credentials. But, I mean, he used to work in the video game industry. He was part of making Tony Hawk, I believe.
Yep.
Wow, I played that game.
Great game, by the way.
Honestly.
Yeah.
He
He worked in the video game industry for a while, and then got out of the video game industry only to pick up the UFO subject and basically dedicate his life to, or dedicate his time now to looking at cases and figuring out if there's a prosaic explanation. And honestly, I think that's a wonderful thing. Like I said, we need those kind of people in the community, because if we don't have those, I can't stand that echo chamber, right? Where everyone just sits around and circle jerks each other. No, that's not how we advance. We advance by competition and even jealousy to a point, right? Have you ever been jealous of a coworker and you work harder just to kind of rise above that person? So I think all those emotions and those things are what make humans unique, but I also think they're imperative to the advancement of our society and of our species. So yes, we do need skeptics, and we do need people that maybe aren't exactly the same thinking style as we to keep us in check. But if they're not at least open to having the conversation both ways as a two-way street, then there's no point. It's like talking to a wall. You're never going to get further than because if you're just arguing and no one's willing to meet halfway, then it's pointless.
Yeah, no, I totally 100% agree with that, because you see, look, man, I wanted to say, like, to your first original question, like, about skepticism. To me, I think that, it leads to ignorance, and what I mean by that is, when somebody is skeptical about something, right, and they don't want to identify or prove it for themselves, or try to go out there and just try to discover things for themselves to see, like try to, go to all these ancient places that have been around for a very long time, with throughout the centuries, and then you can see how everything is going to be identified, and everything is going to be more clear when you are actually there trying to learn for yourself. I always give people advice that like, we can all be skeptical about this and that, like, because I have the version of self can understand that, sure, I can be skeptical about a thing, but let's try to prove it. Let's try to prove some theories to see if it can be this and that,
Yeah, so this is Mick West, by the way. So if you've probably seen him around the community somewhere. But where's this one? So this is one of his responses today to our tweet no, maybe this wasn't to me, but this was during our conversation back and forth with him. So he says, what people are claiming is that there are unambiguously anomalous objects that are strong evidence of non-human intelligence. I see. I don't agree with that. I do not think anyone is saying that we know exactly what it is. No one's, or at least I never said, I know that these are something that's non-human, right? Again, I don't think anyone can say with 100% sure like aspect of it, but I don't think some of these craft are they just don't obey our laws of physics, our understanding of physics, and unless there's some sort of shadow government holding these things at Area 51, then I don't, I don't know. There's always a possibility that it isn't. And I think we need to be open to both ideas, and we need to be willing to be wrong. We talked about this last show. Not a lot of people in the UFO community know how to be wrong.
Yeah.
They can't take it on the chin and walk away.
Right. Yep. You have to admit when you're wrong. And if you post footage that gets debunked, it's okay. And I don't think, and also on the other side of things, let's not be so harsh and so critical on someone who shares something and it gets debunked. Like, they were looking for answers too. Everybody's just got to, ease up. We're all people looking for answers. We all have opinions and conclusions that we've reached. I disagree on the conclusions that Mick has reached, but that's it. I'm not talking about him as a person, his personality, how good of a human being he is. I have my beliefs and he has his. He's a smart guy, and that's that. I got nothing bad to say about the guy. I don't. I just disagree with him.
At least Mick, I can at least respect the fact that he at least tries to come from a critical and scientific point of view, right? He sits there and he tries to come up with explanations.
Yeah.
And some of the times he's spot on. Some with the balloons, he finds the exact fucking balloon. It's insane.
He does good work.
It is. But there's then other people like this guy, Steven, who are just absolutely on a warpath lately with just verbal tweet attacks to certain individuals that are like Ryan Graves. Ryan Graves is literally just there for flight safety, right? That's it. And he has the Merge podcast now. Yeah, we get it. But he's literally just in it for like the most the most heroic like aspect. And Green Street feels it abundantly necessary to attack him, viciously attack him on Twitter, saying that he's making wild accusations and all this shit. It's like Steven just, it's almost like you're watching a disinformation campaign. That's what it feels like.
That's what a lot of people take that as.
It's like, because it's so either that or he's literally just attacking everybody.
Yeah, I don't, I don't agree with his particular methods of delivering his statements, and I feel like, again, we could all be a hell of a lot nicer to each other. It's like, if you disagree with somebody, then just disagree. I don't think there needs to be character attacks or anything of that sort. I don't really follow his tweets regularly anymore because I'm too busy following other things that I'd rather be reading and have interest in, because I know he and I disagree. But there's been a couple of times where I was like, man, you didn't have to say that. I'll admit that. And another guy that I think is talented, and if he came at it from a different perspective, I feel like he could also be another one of those guys that would contribute positively to the community by weeding out the BS.
Yeah, and we, like I said, again, I can't say that enough. We definitely need those types of people.
You have to have it.
Like Green Street, for instance, and Green Street pisses me off in an entirely different way. Again, at least I can respect Mick in a way where he's legitimate, but then I hate to say it, Gary Nolan the other day on a podcast was like, stop engaging with him. Mick would be laughed out of an actual scientific conversation, like if they got a group together of scientists, Mick would not be able to hold water. And listen, I wouldn't either. So
yeah, me
it's
too.
not a bad
None of
thing.
us can.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. But when Gary Nolan says that, and then people come to the aid of Mick saying Gary Nolan's a grifter. I'm like, oh my God.
Gary Nolan's a grifter?
Yeah,
that was
might
something
have the
that was
wrong
said?
guy. Yeah, you might have.
Man.
I can bring it up. I was like, you have the wrong guy, homie. But with Steven, Steven will literally grift. Like, he'll pull every dollar out of the community that he can, right? He did a 5-part series on Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, I watched it.
5 hours of him at Skinwalker Ranch and going to Skinwalker Ranch and milked the community for the Skinwalker Ranch thing, but then turns around and says it all, but he was clearly there to make it look shitty and kind of poke fun at it.
Jupiter Space in the chat says Nolan definitely a grifter. I'm just curious, like, what is everyone's definition at this point in time of a grifter?
Gary Nolan's like worth like, I think it's like 200 million.
He's worth. I don't think it's that much.
He's
worth
that money.
A lot.
None of that money came from the UFO community. He does not need to grift. The definition of a grifter is someone who who swindles you, like swindles you out of money or some valuable. Gary Nolan does not fit that criteria. He doesn't have his own podcast. He doesn't have his own radio show. He doesn't pull money. He doesn't take money. As far as I know, he doesn't accept money to speak at any conference. So they just, they'll fly him out and put him in a room, but he's not making money speaking. So that's not grifting.
No, I don't consider him a grifter, and he has contributed so much to the scientific community that I feel that his work outside of the UFO community demands our respect, personally.
Honestly, see Jupiter Space, what other doctor aside from your own can you name? Gary Nolan got involved with UFOs because the UFO community went to him. They found him because of his prestigious accolade list and his absolute dedication to the craft. Mm-hmm. The guy is one of the most brilliant immunologists in the world.
If
like
not
in the fucking world.
He might be the most, at least in the United States, he's considered like the best of the best.
He almost won a Nobel Prize.
He has been involved in a lot of projects that I believe were up for awards of that caliber.
Yeah, and the guy has more patents than it's Gary Nolan. Let's just not go there because he's not a grifter.
He's a genius.
Like you want to talk about Greer as a grifter? All day I'll talk about that. That guy is a grifter, charging thousands of fucking dollars to go do CE5 in the fucking cabin. So that is grifting. Gary Nolan, not a grifter. So absolutely.
I agree with Ty. Yeah, I agree, dude. I agree with you. I don't see him doing anything like that.
I still like Greer in a way where I listen to everything that he has to say. See, that's the difference. That's how we have to be. I don't really like Stephen Greer, but I watch every interview, every documentary, every podcast that he's on, everything, every lecture he does, because I still want the information so I can directly apprehend the answer for myself. And I've come to these conclusions myself. I don't listen to someone else at the Daily Mail and regurgitate the headline every time someone asks me that same question. So get the fuck, that's God. I maybe we should.
People have their opinions, man. It's just, again, I asked this question on Twitter like an hour ago. I'm like, okay, what's okay to put behind a paywall? Like as a content creator, especially in the UFO community, like
stuff.
What is right? But it's like, I saw some people complain. I'm not going to say what they were complaining about because I don't want to like drag that out. But it's like, what you guys in the chat, like what is appropriate and what is not appropriate to charge money for? Like if someone writes a book, right? Like that takes a long time. I get a little irked by that when someone's like, oh, they're writing a book. It's like, well, when you put time and effort and resources into something that you're then distributing to like a large group of people, is it really wrong to make a couple bucks off of doing that? Like, everybody has to survive, especially with how things are right now, economically speaking. Like there's a difference between putting out a book with facts in it and then putting out like an expensive book that has nonsense in it that you're making things up like Corey Good, like talking about
he's a definition. That's a definition.
That's a grifter. That's not a grifter.
And
he's
David
a scam artist. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly right here too. So their whole thing is based on a lie. So they're
Yes.
selling a lie
Yes.
knowingly. No, the difference is knowingly selling a lie and versus not. Like maybe Stephen Greer doesn't know that what he's doing is not cool. Like, maybe that's different. If he thinks he's doing it out of the pureness of his heart, then shit, maybe we should reassess. But guys like Will Cox and Corey Good, those are the people that you got to watch out for. And you know what? As part of being part of the UFO community, we have to watch out more than any other community, because yes, we do attract some fairly wild folk. So it's all about wading through it and picking out what you need out of, or picking out what you need or anything you can take away from it. And then, assessing the situation. And I think, again, skeptics are a valuable part of the community, but we need to get on the same page. We need to at least be willing to have the conversation. Who's got a love? I think it sounds like Love has a party going on.
Yeah,
in the
because I'm the
background.
only one here in my house right now.
But so, we'll kind of veer away from this for a minute or two. Did you see what George Knapp and Corbell talked about on Weaponized?
Yeah, I shared a portion of it on Twitter, actually.
Okay. Just to kind of keep it lighthearted a little bit, because I want to get off. I want to stop ranting for a minute. What did you think of the stories that were told? Because Corbell went on the Russell Brand show, and he was spitting absolute concrete fire, right? As he, to frame it in a weird way, he was saying like, we definitely have this, we definitely have that. And I've always looked at Corbell as someone who vets everything before he says it or shows it, and to make those claims, but not have proof, kind of, sent the community into a little bit of a frenzy. So, what did you?
Well, I noticed a pattern. Again, you and I talked about this the other day. That like when I first discovered Corbell, he wasn't saying those types of things.
Can I be honest?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. Corbell kind of aggravates me sometimes. I think it's like his attitude. I think it's a little bit arrogant sometimes.
Yeah. Again, I see what people say about him, but I haven't released any classified DOD images. Like I look at the things that he has done. I think he's excited. I think he gets real amped up. But I've noticed like a trend with him since watching Patient 17. He started off very skeptical, and he's coming down the road, and now he's like speaking as if he has seen something. So it makes me wonder what has been sent to him behind the scenes. What has he seen? But people get irritated by that. It's like, okay, well, if you saw this, you saw that, then show it. It's like, well, there's chain of custody. Like, I feel like a lot of the UFO community doesn't realize how complicated this stuff gets behind the scenes as far as releasing, footage and images. But for him to be saying what he's saying with that level of confidence, it does intrigue me. And those stories were fascinating, especially the one that George Knapp told about the guy that was the head of EG&G. Like that one really, I shared something from that, because you remember when Weinstein was talking about, where are all the physicists?
I know, dude. It was like it lined up perfectly.
Yes.
I don't know
exactly
if it was or not, but it definitely
I got
lined
hyped
up.
when I heard that. I was like, oh, wait, hold on a second. And I clipped it, and I was like, I tagged Weinstein in it, Corbell, Knapp, and Knapp follows me. So I'm like, okay, maybe he'll see this. It's like, hey, maybe these physicists don't realize that they're working on these things from a distance.
Yeah, of course. Like, and we know from even stories from Lazar and other folk that these programs, these SAPs, special access programs, they are shrouded in compartmentalization. So, if I was working on a project, I could be working next door to Tom, and we don't know each other, and we don't know that we're working on the same thing, like from different angles.
And we're not allowed to talk either.
And we're not
That's
allowed to
important.
talk. Yeah.
We're not allowed to talk.
I mean, that's a problem for advancement as well. You know, when you don't get the big picture, it's very hard to see things clearly. So again, that kind of a little poke at Mick West in the sense that, you know, a lot of these cases we're just acting on eyewitness testimony and maybe a little bit of radar here and there, video here and there. So I think to say with absolute certainty about any of this shit is very, very wild. And Corbell seems to be saying that he knows that we have fully intact craft and that it is of non-human intelligence. Now, maybe that's what Mick was talking about, saying like people are insinuating it's non-human.
Where's Love? Is he here? I
Yeah,
wanted to let
Love.
him get
Yeah,
his
yeah, no, I'm
thoughts
here.
in.
I'm here.
Love.
Gotcha.
As a person who practices CE5 and you know kind of has his own confirmation of things, do you find that this factionalism is petty or?
In a way, okay, like in what instance?
So, do you think that these conversations even need to happen from your point of view? Because people, I mean, Corbell, right? Jeremy Corbell, the guy who made Area 51 and Bob Lazar, or Bob Lazar and Area 51, flying saucers. Do you think that stuff is important to advance the UFO subject?
I mean, okay, like I feel like it could bring like like things and ideas to the table, but if you're not,
What if you found out tomorrow that the United States government has a fully intact UFO and that they've been trying to reverse engineer it for 60 plus years and that they've been in contact with a non-human intelligence at least once? Would that change anything about your thinking?
honestly, like I mean, not really. Supposing that if okay, like I understand if the ship was already there and they've been working on it and tried to reverse engineer it, but then at the same time, from my experiences, I've learned that in reality, whether they do have the craft or not, it's they still these beings are still operating in a way that they are still there consciously. So even whether they have the craft or not, it doesn't matter. That's the only evidence that we would have if it was, you know, if it's on land, it's on ground, and we can actually see this reversed engineered craft. I think that's the only good side about it.
Okay, so but specifically talking about, you know, maybe not from the technological perspective, but for the historical aspect, not the historical aspect, that's wrong as well, but I guess for the I don't even know how to frame this question actually. It's because it's something that's kind of deep, but so let me get this straight. You think it is a fundamental thing to have, but say we never found out, you don't think it would affect the advancement? Do you think more people are going to do CE5 and make contact then?
It could be a reality where both things could happen at the same time, you know, like it wouldn't really affect anything. It's just if you're really willing to do it, you're you know go out there yourself and actually make contact, it wouldn't really affect of that us knowing that they do have a physical craft, you know.
Right, right. Okay. Tom, what do you think?
Well, I personally I'll just preface this by saying that I do believe that they have more than just one craft in their possession, because I personally believe the Bob Lazar story, and I think having that technology, it changes a lot. If you follow any of Jacques Vallée's work, you know he obviously believes that there's an interdimensional aspect to this phenomenon. There are people who believe that we can't even classify them as physical beings, you know. So us having a piece of this technology, like think about this, like if it's running on something anti-gravitic, there goes the oil industry like overnight.
Right, but you see, look. I wanted to add more onto the
Yeah, go ahead, please do.
Yes, yeah, the advancement is look. The thing is, the reason it wouldn't matter is because do we really trust these people to really release something so unique to the public that when doing CE5 is different because you can actually just go out there and do it. You don't
I
have to,
see your perspective. That's a
yeah,
really
yeah,
good point. It's
yeah,
like
you
they
don't have
might
to wait.
how do we know, like, let's say they did come out and reveal that. How do we know that really is alien technology, for lack of a better term?
I mean,
How
I
do
would
you know what I
say if
mean?
it
That's a good
fucking,
point.
I would say if the thing jetted out into the outer space in 22 seconds,
Oh yeah, no,
I
that
think I'd have some inklings on whether it was
Oh
human or
yeah,
not.
that's fair. But
If
the
it was pulling right
CE5,
angle turns.
CE5 like brings it to the individual to have that personal experience. It's the difference between someone telling you about skydiving and you going and jumping out of the plane. Like,
right.
I
But
totally get where you're coming from.
my problem with the CE5 angle is that I
Mhm.
don't think that that many people have the patience to meditate and to actually try. Will it like actually try
Right.
to do
No,
it
it really
properly?
does take. I can really agree with that because it really does take a lot of patience. If let's say
Mhm.
like I've been out there for hours and hours, just sitting there meditating, and like I feel like if you really try, just go out there and actually have the patience. Because me personally, I have a lot of patience towards a lot of things. Because I don't try to let it drive me crazy.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
just try to like just let go, uh, just breathe, and just know that it's okay. It's okay to be patient.
Well,
Yeah, you want to. That's a really good point.
let's take a look. I want you guys to hear this before we talk about it. And again, a lot of people, this is the deathbed confession conversation. But if you have any questions about anything, feel free to ask. But a lot of people are now going to be really interested in this story because again, this weaponized podcast with George Knapp, especially, that guy can tell a story, dude.
Yeah, he can.
Oh my god,
I love that guy, man.
I was on the
you.
edge of my seat, like listening to this, and I was just like, George knows how to keep an audience hooked.
Yes.
But then it was like a dad and a son talking, and the son kind of like jumps in every couple minutes and is like, "Yeah, dude, yeah, dad."
That's true.
Like that's Corbell and Knapp.
That was the dynamic.
Yeah. So here it is. The again, we're using this in a fair use commentary kind of way from the Weaponized podcast. Thank you. Shout out to Corbell and Knapp.
Are you ever going to
You
get
go.
the deathbed confession tape
Can you hear it?
that this guy made
Yep.
for you from his son?
Doubtful.
Why?
I've had no contact with them for a long time. I think that it depends on which version it is. They may not, the one that he recorded may not be the official story that they want out anymore. They might prefer the one that they told Annie Jacobson. I don't have any contact.
Okay. I didn't realize that I thought we were going to get more of the backstory as well, but I guess not, I forgot. So just to preface this, George spoke to a man who claimed to have worked at Area 51 and kind of backed Lazar's story about having fully intact craft and all this stuff, in a S4, hidden in the mountain. But then years later, he changed the story and told some woman, some writer, and she wrote a book basically negating the original story that George knew. So now they're in direct conflict. But George has had an agreement with them to make a deathbed confession tape. So that's what they're talking about now.
Contact with the family anymore. Maybe I should try to reach out to them. But
Yeah, before this episode goes live, I think you should.
seems doubtful that that it's gonna happen. But I was really happy to be able to interact with Al all those years ago, and really wish that I was in a position to give more definitive proof about it. But I was just wanted to explain to people the process of how it worked and how you try to develop sources in this wacky field.
Yeah, you always say the trick to being seen as trustworthy is to actually consistently be trustworthy. And, you know, you've kind of told me a few things in journalism that are like, you know, the solid points. And the first thing you ever told me is protect your sources, even if they don't protect themselves. And then the second thing was the trustworthiness, you know. And I think that you have to consistently show that, because for you and me and our experiences, even today, which we're, you know, we can't talk about, but even today, the idea that somebody would call us, right? And we have to prove again that we're trustworthy, and you got to do that. You got to do that. You know, don't tell anybody about this. You promised me, and I love that. I'm like, okay, I did promise you, and I'm confirming to you again, because people get kind of panicked.
Yeah.
So your process as a journalist, when you have had these sources that were threatened, and you had these sources that confide in you, and have these sources create deathbed confessions, but you can't fucking release it. You know, we get a lot of flack for that. I mean, I don't read online anymore. I'm sorry, guys. I don't. It's too crazy, right? But like, people send me screenshots of what people are saying. They get so mad that like we're sitting on stuff. So, for example, when we released that Mosul orb image,
Like, again, tell me that wasn't the most arrogant thing to say, because his success directly correlates with public interest in UFOs. Yet he won't go online to engage the people that see how arrogant that sounds. Yeah. Sorry, Jeremy. I had to.
we had been sitting on this for a long time, but we had to go because we don't know who gave it to us directly, but then we started getting it from multiple people. We always make sure that we don't know where an image comes from directly. And so, you know, sometimes we do not directly, but we're protected by shield law as journalists in America, right? So, which means that we can protect our sources. So anybody that gives us stuff, we can protect them because we are protected. But people get mad that we sit back on information. If you got such great information, put it out. Here's the deal. People have families. They're taking a huge risk sometimes, not always, but sometimes. Now we have to consistently show that we are worthy of that trust as reporters and journalists. So we have to also vet stuff, because we don't, like everybody else, you can just like throw something up on Twitter to get a bunch of hits. Hold on. These are people's lives, and we want to know ourselves. We want to know if this is right information. And every single thing you and I have put out has been verified, authenticated, and if people think it's not, and there's talk otherwise, hold on to your seats.
Yeah, isn't that Mosul orb? Wasn't that a raindrop or something on the lens? I heard it was a pothole. Yeah, I mean everything except for a round seagull. So far,
everything but the kitchen sink or a UFO.
Yeah.
Look.
By the way, did anyone hear the Mick West dig right there?
Yeah, I mean, I
when he says the seagull.
I caught it. Yeah, I caught it. And whenever a seagull is mentioned, it is assumed by the community that it's a Mick West reference, because you know.
Yeah, as you can see in tonight's thumbnail.
Jeremy made a really fair point, though, and this is a point that I bring up.
Hold on. Look at the seagull.
Oh, yeah, there's the seagull. I like seagulls when I go on vacation.
Here.
I like them. I do like them a lot.
All right.
He makes a good point, though. You know, when you're not, when us as the public are not aware of the chain of custody for the footage and images that are being sent to him and George, like, he's right. People's lives are involved. We have no idea. So, like, I feel like we as a community should try our best to be as understanding as we can with I know. And it's like you only have so much information, and people get, you know, antsy and they're like, come on. We have maybe one day we'll hear about the story of how this one image got to them and what it took to release it, because it gets complicated, honestly. That's why. And another thing, when it comes to Jeremy, the reason I have no issues with Jeremy is because he's so tight with George, and I get a really, really good vibe from George personally, like just as a human being.
Yeah, me too.
And it's like, if he's hanging around with Jeremy can't be that bad, man. Honestly, that's my opinion.
No. I guarantee Jeremy's a cool dude, but like,
yeah.
He puts himself on a pedestal because I'm George Knapp's apprentice, and he likes to put labels on himself.
I think
like,
he's proud. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would be too. But also, he admits that he doesn't know how to do like exposure with a camera. Like he doesn't know. Like he admits all these things that he's like not a great filmmaker, and it's like,
I think he
okay,
does a good job. Honestly,
he did a good job, but there were a lot of there was a lot of mistakes in that first documentary. And again, I went to school for it, but I haven't made a documentary like that, and so I give him credit, of course, credit where credit's due. But I'm saying, like, he it seems like sometimes Jeremy puts himself above the community, and I'm not the only one who feels that way. I'm not. He definitely puts himself on a pedestal, and I think it can be a little arrogant at times, considering he's so new. So that's all I'm saying.
I totally get what you're saying. I do.
Yeah, he's done great work. Again, Mick West has done great work. I'm not diminishing any of these people. However, I think that we all need a little bit of an attitude check sometimes.
We're all guilty of it, man. All of us. None of us are perfect.
Oh, I'm the biggest.
I appreciate Jeremy
offender.
for what he's trying to do for the community. George, same thing. Anybody that's out there that's contacting sources, anything like that, you're out in the trenches, like, thank you for doing that. Thank you for at least trying to get this stuff out to us. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Maybe people don't like some of the things that you say, but look at the results, and that's what I really judge them by.
Some people obviously tell you things, but then they say, I don't want you to tell anyone. I just want to get this off my chest. Listen, that's understandable. But if that happens, then you keep that inside. Don't bait or don't bring it up on a on now one of the biggest UFO based podcasts there is, because you're only going to attract the attention of the community wanting to know more, because you're the guy who gives people good shit. So I don't know. Maybe it's a double-edged sword, with what he does. And again, I love Jeremy. I respect him. I wouldn't say I love him, actually, but I like him. But I think sometimes he just needs a little bit of an attitude check. But the Mosul orb, I think, is a great piece of evidence. I would love to see the 4-second video. And it sounds like Jeremy might have access to it. Which, if he does, I would really like to see that, especially if it's not classified. And if it's not classified, why aren't they why hasn't it been provided? Can you give us that answer?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of those questions, I feel like these guys get told a lot, like very specific instructions on releasing information that they've been handed. Like, listen, I'm giving this to you in confidence, and if you want anything else from me, you must release it on this date. People are going to get pissed because they want to see the footage, but this is, again, there's a process at play, seemingly a disclosure process, and there's an internal battle in the military, in the government. There's forces pressing up against each other, so that complicates this even more.
Tremendously, yeah, I agree.
I want to know what Love thinks about, when these guys, Love, when you see an image get dropped that may have come from like a piece of footage. How do you feel as someone in the community when you're handed something like that and you know that there's more, but then it's not given to you? Like, do you get frustrated, or do you appreciate what's being done and understand that there's a process? Like, how do you feel about it?
I mean, for me, it's like, honestly, when I look at these, I look at these things in a different perspective, like in a way that, yeah, I do appreciate what you're giving me for now, like for
Right.
now, because that's, because I feel like maybe there's more information later that they need to release. But then at the same time, like I appreciate what they're trying to show me, but then at the same time, I would like to sort of reach out a little bit more to get where this is coming from. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally do. Yeah.
Like, cause me, like for Jeremy, I kind of like him, it's like a yin and yang, because it's like he says things about I don't really know how much 100% he can prove what he's talking about.
I think he's just doing his best, like all the rest of us. You know what I mean? So Nick Carr in the chat says Jeremy's a good guy. If Knapp trusts him, I do too. That's exactly what I said earlier. Like, now, 100% trust. I don't know the guy personally, but I do my best to trust these people as much as I can. George, I believe George is one of the best journalists that this country has ever had. Personally, I think George has done amazing work and continues to do so, and he's given a lot of his life to this subject and other connected subjects. So I appreciate him for that. But Jeremy came into this community pretty late in his life, man. So it's like, it's got to be a whirlwind for him too. It's exciting. If I hooked up with George Knapp like that, would I be telling every 3 people like, hey, guess what? Like, maybe, it's like, it's exciting. You're this guy, I think Jeremy has on a couple occasions even mentioned that like George Knapp is like one of his heroes. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, it's big for him, and this topic is big for all of us.
Agreed. Agreed. Guys, real quick, we're going to be right back. We're going to go to a little bit of a commercial break. I know that's new, but it's something that we'll be doing going forward to run a slight ad campaign on your asses. So we will be right back, guys. Stay right where you are. We got a huge final topic of the night that I can't wait to talk about. So we'll catch you in a minute. Welcome to Total Disclosure. Before we get into tonight's video, I don't know. I wanted to say how amazing UFOCon 2023 is going to be. We've been invited to be the guest podcast of the event, and it is going to be a remarkable series of 3 days, 18 speakers, and a variety of not only experiencers, but researchers and scientists and contactees. And then guys like me are going to be there, and it's going to be an absolute blast. Now, I did want to go over a few things. Use code SPKR23, and your ticket for the 3 days will go from $160 down to $125. It's going to be tons of fun. So join us March 17th, 18th, and 19th, 2023. Visit www.ufocon2023.com for more info. The speakers are set now. There's Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, there'll be a lunch break with an experiencer group. And then Saturday night, there is a game show that will be held. So these are aside from the guest speakers and lectures. It's going to be an amazing event. We hope to see you all there. Lorian Fenton has done such a great job in the past, and we can't wait to see what she's got for this convention. But it's amazing when someone can bring all these people together under one roof. And if you get your ticket, there's going to be no shortage of things to do or people to hear from. So it's a great way to network, and a great way to get out there and support your community. We hope to see you there, guys. From the other side, welcome to Total Disclosure. My name is Ty, and I am the host and creator of the show. I want to start off by saying thank you to every single person listening and watching on your chosen platform. Remember to go above and beyond by following and rating the show. It's free, and it tremendously helps us with getting to new audiences and helping with our algorithm. You can also help support the show by joining our membership on either Anchor or YouTube. For as low as the price of a cup of joe every month, you could be listening to ad-free content, gaining early access, and getting a yearly gift. Making the show is a passion, however, it isn't cheap. And this is how we keep the show free for you, the listener. Thank you in advance. Now let's get the party started. All right. Welcome to Oh my God, it's playing in a loop. My name is Ty, and I am the host and creator of the show. That just played in a loop. I did not mean for that to happen. Now you all know that I just tricked you. Just kidding. All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back. I'm going to get this thing off the screen. Sorry, there's just so many things in my way right now. Thank you for enduring that. There were a couple pre-recorded loops that I needed to get played for the sponsor stuff. So back to it. We're going to finish up this Corbell video real quick, okay?
Do it up.
I wish that with the information that we have, right, that we could just, give everybody the smack like that. It's not our job.
Okay.
I am hoping that our government is.
I want to He wants to give us the smack. So just again, hear those words.
Honest with the American people. The arrow that the new UFO office is honest with the American people and has a promotion of an idea of transparency, UFO transparency. It is not our job to do everything.
Agreed.
It is our job
Agreed.
to address the issues, make them public, and see where the chips fall. I believe in other people. There are great people working on this right now. I have never been resisted, always assisted, different than you. I've never been resisted. So I really hope, I'm very hopeful and optimistic as a person I am about the UFO topic, UFO truth. And I do think this could be the biggest story of all time if we find out some of the truth.
Well, the jury is still out on Arrow. I'd like to believe that they're going to live up to the promises that they've made, that they are going to strive toward transparency. Haven't seen it yet. Haven't seen a whole lot of indication that's true. I do give them the benefit of the doubt in that they're tackling this. It's taken me like 35 years to get my head around it. And it's a steep learning curve for them to figure it all out. So I'm willing to cut them a little bit of slack for a while. What I've seen so far has not been encouraging, but I'm hoping that they'll live up to the lofty promises that they've made.
Well, I do know that people reach out to us all the time to wrap their head around the bigger issues, right? To see, so they don't spin their wheels. That I know that does happen. I am actually encouraged by Arrow, and the reason I am encouraged by Arrow that it's not going to be a Project Blue Book whitewash kind of thing is because of the whistleblower legislation. And if you just looked at the Arrow PowerPoint, I think it's like 7 pages that tell their mandate, the departments that are involved nationally and internationally, it is set up to be serious. It always ends up being who's the head. If the head says, okay, let's be transparent, like our friend Jay Stratton, he directly told us that what he wanted to do was not have another Project Blue Book. What he wanted to do as a person, as an individual, was to have an open dialogue with the American public about what's going on with UFOs. And I think he did a spectacular job when he was in that position of power to try to do that. And now talking publicly everywhere else and kind of putting himself out there, I admire him. I admire that he does that. I fingers crossed, and I am encouraged by that document, right, by that PowerPoint, that they're on the right track. And if Arrow is listening, if the people that are working there are listening, hey, man, the American public wants that. They want honesty. They want truth. It is your duty. You work for the American people. Please do it right, because if not, you're going to be called the fuck out.
Agreed. And again, that's a great clip. I highly advise that everybody goes and checks out every single episode that to date for Weaponized, because they're all great. Like they're doing good work with this podcast.
Very much.
I really, and now with Merge podcast with Ryan Graves is involved in another company. I can't remember what the name is.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, though. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's like the safety one.
Yeah.
I signed up for it.
Yeah, I did too.
And I want to give everyone the link. But you basically you add your name and email and where you live, your zip code, and the only reason they ask for your zip code is because they're going to relay all that information to the representatives of each person's state. They're going to give the person that handles that you know, the numbers on their state, how many people from each state, you know, sign up. It's a data point. It's a data set basically for look how many people are in. It's basically like a form of a petition, right?
Mhm.
You know, it's basically just a petition, but it's more or less like, look at by state how many people are at least concerned enough to search out signing up for this, you know, this program, this little thing here, to let their representatives know that this is something that we take seriously. It shouldn't have to come to this, though. It shouldn't. And that's the problem with our current political scheme or political field, is that pilots for the longest time would be taken, basically not allowed to fly. They'd lose their wings, and they'd have to be, you know, go through psych evals, all for just saying they saw something that they couldn't explain. And for many years that was the case. Therefore, how many pilots now are getting older from, you know, these past service members that have this knowledge of things that they may have seen but won't come out with it. Because they're scared. And that's a real thing. People are scared to come out with this topic because of the way, like, look at how Bob Lazar was handled. Nobody would sign up for what Bob Lazar went through.
No. Bob Lazar wouldn't sign up for what he went through. He has said that.
So I just, the whole point of tonight's show is the fact that the stigma is what we need to get rid of. Not the skeptics, not the critical thinkers, not the believers, the experiencers, etc., researchers, so on and so forth, right? No, it's none of those. What we have to get rid of is conforming or forming narratives based on a data set, but leaving out the data that doesn't fit your own narrative, right? You know, I hate to bring it back to Mick West, but again, that 95% versus 5% argument, where he says he acts like all UFO sightings are balloons and other things, but has no inkling or no desire to even have the conversation that it could be a non-human intelligence. So that therein lies the problem. That's the moral is we need to be able to have a two-way conversation, and we need to get this into a rigorous scientific study. And I think, you know, the landscape right now is pretty good. People are forming nonprofits to study this thing. Funding is happening. You know, Gary Nolan talked about it on the podcast the other day. Someone sent a very large anonymous donation to Stanford University.
Oh.
And it said, for Gary Nolan's research into ufology.
Wow. Do you remember how much it was roughly?
No,
Or...
they didn't say.
Wow. That's interesting.
But Gary Nolan said it was large.
Wow. And for him to say that with the money that he's dealt with,
it
was probably in the millions, Ty.
Yeah. So, and it was specifically addressed. It was made out to Stanford. I keep saying Stanford. Made out to Stanford directly for him, though. Like the memo, like, or, you know, whatever. So pay to the order of was Gary Nolan. Like it's specifically for his research into the science of ufology. So I think, you know, and then we have SETI and METI and whatever NIDS is now. I know it's not the National Institute of Discovery Science anymore, but Bob Bigelow is still heavily involved. Like it'd be great for Elon to get involved, but he just won't.
Yeah.
And that's because he's working closely with NASA. But even NASA has a new UFO program.
Right. Yeah, no, you see, that it's their first public one. NASA's been studying UFOs, in my opinion.
Yes,
like, honestly.
What do you think?
Come on.
You really think that?
Yeah, I do. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a clip from like what, the International Space Station or from the shuttle, where an anomalous object seems to, come into frame, and then NASA's, camera feed goes down, or they, pivot. It just looks so obvious that they were trying not to show things that appear to be anomalous in nature. So it's suspicious. And how many people have come forward? There's been a couple that said that there were things on the moon that they were like airbrushing out of like Apollo photos. That's weird. I've heard that so many times. I'm going to be doing, at least one video, maybe a series on that. The moon is really mysterious. I know there's a lot of people out there that think that we didn't land on the moon,
which is absurd,
I think that's a
by the
diversion.
way.
I think that's a diversion tactic. Oh yeah, I mean, all you have to do
what
is watch the footage of the rover, and you just watch the way the dust settles. It's clearly
But-
like lower gravity.
What if the say Elon Musk gets to the moon, right?
Mhm.
And I'm just saying the moon. I know he's trying to go to Mars, but obviously they're going to go to the moon first,
Hit
if
stop.
anything, and then not even stop, but
like a stepping
like
stone.
if they were if they were doing So if they were doing tests, the first test, long range test, would be going to the moon, right?
Yes, that's
And
it's a good test.
Yeah, but then you bring extra fuel and stuff, and then you
Uh-huh.
leave it on the moon. That way, you can refuel at on the moon.
Well, they're trying to
set
set up a permanent base on the moon.
Yeah.
With NASA's Artemis mission.
Yeah, and China has plans to do it before 2025.
Yeah, NASA wants to send, I guess, a few astronauts up for the next, what will be a round of moon missions. I think by like late next year. I could be wrong on that. I know they're really, really trying to beat China to the moon. Like, it's like a new space race sort of deal. It's going to be interesting though. So like,
But
what
I
if it
wonder-
works out that we're both on the moon? Like, how's that going to work?
Well, I hate to say it, but I think that I think once you're up there,
Yeah.
it's all scientists. It's
Oh,
all,
absolutely. Absolutely.
And they're just not, they're not
not
going to pick
concerned with
fights with each
politics.
other
Yeah.
unless China sends up someone that shouldn't be there.
Or a sense of weaponry, which is, I am
Right.
concerned about that. Because who knows? They might.
And I think a lot of people are concerned about that, and
Mhm.
a lot of ufologists. And this is again, if Mick, I know you're gonna listen to this whole thing. I hope, but oh God, I'm sorry. I think that not I think, but I with all of that being said, right? Say Elon gets involved, and all of a sudden, we're colonizing or at least setting up bases on the moon and all that, right? And we, we're there at the same time as maybe a Chinese mission, and they already have a base built while we're building our base. I think something like that, right, would, if the American public and China, if we're all watching this like on live feeds, which I assume we would be by now,
Oh, yeah.
like not live feeds like the first moon landing, but
Mhm.
Moon landing, I guess we have to do that now. But imagine they get there and there's no flag or anything. There's
Right.
imagine
Yeah.
there and found out that we didn't land on the moon.
That would really that would be really disruptive to the order of things. That's for sure.
Do you think that they would keep it? Do you think Elon would keep that a secret?
No, I don't. No, I don't think he would. Mm-mm.
What do you mean? He would. He has a close. He has a billions of dollars invested in this SpaceX that's partnered with NASA. I think he would toe the company line.
I don't think he would, because it would be, I feel just if you go, and I'm going by like the way he handles like social media, and he's trying to make it like open and transparent, trying to bring the truth out on certain things, in his opinion. I'm not getting involved in that one. That I think if if he made some kind of discovery up there that we didn't go to the moon, I feel like in his own mind that he would probably, it would probably like go against his moral compass. You know,
Yeah.
he'd be like, I don't
Yeah.
think I could keep this from people in good conscience. But listen, before anybody gets any ideas, we went to the moon.
We
Like
did go to the moon.
we
Oh, no,
went to the
100%.
we went to the moon. I
Yeah,
know
we went
someone
to the
on
moon.
Twitter personally whose father helped work on some of the technology involved with the Apollo program, and she's very active on my Twitter page, Diana.
And even though it was a terrible scenario,
Mhm.
that guy, there was an astronaut who had was doing a press tour, and
Mhm.
I can't remember who the astronaut was, but they were doing a press tour. It wasn't Buzz Aldrin.
I
but,
know.
But Buzz Aldrin did something similar where he punched
Yeah.
somebody.
Uh-huh.
But Buzz did it, and you could see the emotion in his face. Like, imagine going to the moon and then you got people yelling at you that you didn't, and you really did, right?
I
And
would be furious.
and you were part of what the most iconic historical moment, in my opinion, the biggest single achievement in human history was when we landed on the moon. Now, if that was taken away, that would be earth shattering. But imagine you did it. You fucking trained. You took the one of the biggest risks, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
all of it.
Oh,
And then someone
yeah.
came up and said that you are part of this propaganda. I'd punch them too.
Yeah, dude. Do you
Right?
know like what Neil Armstrong went through as he was a fighter pilot in war. He almost died in war. He almost died doing a test flight of a ground-based lunar lander simulator. I don't know if you've ever seen that footage, but he had to eject. And his timing, if he had ejected like a half a second later, he would have become one with that fireball. These guys are American heroes. They had the right stuff, man. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Right Stuff. I recommend it for anybody into, the whole space race and everything. Ed Harris is in it. It's excellent. These guys, the things that they did to push science forward and to get us off of Earth and to beat the Russians to the moon, like, you have no idea. You have no idea. These guys, they put their lives on the line every single day. But
Yeah,
we
That's
went to
true.
the moon. What's up,
That's
love?
true.
I want to hear. What do you have? You've
Well,
been quiet for a little bit.
I'm gonna lead him into a question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so love, I want to know what your disclosure would look like. What would be a disclosure scenario that would satisfy you and not cause mass chaos?
I think in that regard, in that sense, I feel like people, I feel like the only way that could happen if I had like my own disclosure, like in the reality of things, um, I believe that people need to like just understand, that this has always been there, that this has always been a normal thing. I feel like we got to get to that conscious level before we can even reach up to where they are. You know, it's to me, I feel like if everyone was just in that conscious meditative state and just look up and everyone was just calm about it, like almost our everyday lives, like it's just part of it. Like it just becomes part of it now. I feel like people should just not run away and just understand that yes, they've always been there, and now they're showing us them to us, and let's see where we can take it.
Yeah. I think there's so much to this that it's hard to definitively answer because it's something that we have nothing to base it on. Like, there's no announcement that's ever been made that would be on the scale of UFO disclosure or disclosure of whatever this is, right? Whether it's interdimensional beings or beings of light or
Man, that'd be
or
weird.
just like imagine the truth is crazier than anything that's ever been ever come like, ever come out of any conspiracy theorist's mouth. Like, imagine there's actually a good reason why the government's kept it under wraps.
May
Now,
very well be.
what if we find out that the government did in fact protect us for as long as they could? Would you be willing to say that you were wrong about them and being mad that they hid it from us for so long?
Maybe.
Because I don't think a
Partially.
guy like Stephen Bassett would be able to.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I just that it depends on how you look at it. It's like kind of like a 50-50 double-edged sword, though.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
We deserve to know because it's our right, just like anyone else. But at the same time, if it was done and in their minds it was in our best interest and they thought they were doing the right thing, kind of have to re-examine it and be like, well, how mad can I be if they thought, like, they weren't trying to be deceitful to gain some sort of advantage over the public. They were doing it because they thought everyone would really be afraid of whatever the truth really is. You do have to take a step back and re-examine
Honestly,
it a little bit.
look, like for me, it's like, let's hypothetically say that the government was protecting us from something that we shouldn't know, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And they do that. They do that very well already. So the thing is with that kind of, to me, that's a problem, because it's like, okay, so what happens to when people actually start seeing these things in the sky that what you are protecting us from, right? They don't, these beings don't care about like the reality of what's happening here. They just pass by. They're going to pass by, and whoever saw them is either going to acknowledge it or freak out and not understand what is going on. So from their point of view, I could say that, okay, yeah, I agree with like us being protected from something that we might not know, but that takes the disadvantage of what we can do to know, but then at the end of the day, it's like, if you're protecting certain people, because nowadays everyone just wants to live their daily life. Most people wouldn't probably want to even see a UFO or be too afraid to understand it. So like, I understand that that's their way of thinking of protecting us by people, because they're going to freak out or revolt against, because that's the most biggest fear, is that, okay, so you've been lying to the public, so you don't want the public to know, but if they start showing themselves, I feel like there will be a revolution towards them because of how much we've been lied to. Or the second thing can happen.
Well, no, I don't agree. I think that the government may need to lie sometimes in our best interest. And I know that sounds very, very like sketchy, but they sometimes need to lie to us in order to trick our enemies, or in order to, protect sources and methods, in order to do these certain things, so that, but there needs to be a line in the sand, right?
Has to be.
If it involves, like, if there is a government that is hiding in plain sight, shout out Ross Coulthart,
Yeah.
and they control technology that's far more advanced, and they've basically become a breakaway civilization by all intensive purposes, that is a problem, right? Not just for us as citizens, but for the politicians, who basically have had people in their midst with technology that could change the fucking world overnight. Overnight, they could change this world. If that's a reality and someone's hiding this advancement from the rest of the world to line their greedy pockets, that's a fucking issue.
No, 100% that is.
And if that's the
World-changing.
case, I will march my ass to wherever I have to and I will join protests. I'll start protests. Like, we cannot let this blow by, right? We honestly, guys, this is going to turn into something that may require gatherings and stuff like that eventually.
I think it already does.
Yeah, where we gather outside the White House or show solidarity in a good way. You know, we need to do something more than just talk on the internet. So guys like Ryan Graves, guys like Corbell, guys like George Knapp, who are involved in all these, you know, programs and or not programs, but involved in all these projects that are getting this thing out into the mainstream and looked at more as a reality rather than a science fiction story, the better. It's the better. So I have again, I'm very passionate about this, but I think it's because it's frustrating when, you know, there are people starving and without homes, without heat in the winter, sleeping outside. That we spent more money in the United States last year on defense than it would take to cure or to alleviate what's it called? When people can't eat. They can't. So basically, I guess I fucked that whole thing up, but we spent more money on defense budgeting last year than it would take to cure world hunger.
Yeah, man, and no, that's 100% ridiculous.
Like, why?
Because they don't want to solve it.
It doesn't matter that we spent the money on defense, but why don't we give half of that to a cause that would end homelessness and hunger in our own country?
They could really do it, but they just don't want to. You know what I mean?
But that's the point. It's like the politicians need to figure this out because they are there because of us, and we pay them by paying taxes, right? All of us. We are it's a government for the people, by the people. It's not supposed to be Nancy Pelosi making millions of dollars inside trading and elevating her own wealth and social status, but then telling people to stay home because their jobs aren't essential. We are so lost.
It's not good what's happening right now.
We are
worldwide.
So lost, Tom.
Yeah, man. This is why I wanted to say, like before we colonize any other planet, we gotta solve each other's issues, you know, and everything that's going on here.
Great point. Honestly, like there's a lot of problems here on the home world. Then it's like I'll say this, like, as much as my mom knows how interested in space and you know, the future of intergalactic travel I am, and you know, she has an interest in it to a point. She has even said, you know, I'm not 100% comfortable seeing money being spent on the space program in the billions of dollars when there's people who are starving. And I totally get where
I
she's
can
coming
actually
from.
retort that because
Go ahead.
I can retort to what she's saying because I was literally going to say something just like this after. Ironically enough. So here's the deal. The advancement of space is essential because, and it's essential in a way that it's going to be hard to grasp at first. But let's say our space program turns into, progresses and we're able to eventually interstellarly travel. You can't get there without what we're doing now. And we don't have as much time as everybody thinks. We don't. And think about it. Think about this. If we advance ourselves enough and maybe these UFOs end up showing themselves to us, because of our advancement in technology and all this, and like, we're getting more mature, and then these UFOs come out of the shadows and they're like, okay, you're ready. Then, their technology can help us. Like, there's a progression of these things, and it all has to work as a machine. So first, we need to get rid of the stigma, and that's what all of us in the UFO community want. We want to shed the stigma, get this more researched by the leading scientists of the world, correlate data, or gather, analyze, and correlate data, and we want to have a solid basis for at least what we understand this might be. So all of these things link together. So we need to spend money on the space program, but I think that I think, but I don't want to get too much into politics, but I think that you should be able to choose what what you pay your taxes for. So
Right.
like you're required to do 4 or 5 of them from your local area, and then you can choose a couple big ones. But that kind of thing. I think that would be a great system, because then people would be, they know their taxes are going towards something that they think is important. So, and when you don't require people to do it, they tend to give more. But I digress. We're going to wrap up in a couple minutes, guys. However, I want to take a look at, and I'd love to get Mick West's opinion on this case file. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this, the Turkey case file. But I would like to play that here today in our last couple minutes, and I want to get your thoughts. I stabilized some of the footage, guys, but in my opinion, this is among the best footage of a UFO that I think I've ever seen. People have tried to say that it was a cruise ship, that it was reflections, all that. I'm not buying it, because this thing showed up on the same exact day or in the same time period for multiple years in a row, and it was the same craft. Watch this video. It's fucking crazy. All right, guys. What did you think?
Definitely one of the most debated pieces of UFO footage probably
Oh yeah.
ever.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely. Then
Listen,
and
guys.
that footage is from Turkey.
Yeah,
Yes, it
that's
is.
right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, did you see the beginning?
Yep.
Love?
Sorry.
Did you see the beginning?
Oh yeah, I saw the beginning. Yeah. I've
Where it's- So, yeah. So Turkey, yes. And the thing is, I chose 5 videos, the best 5 that I thought were on there. However, there are 3 more that I thought were even better, but I couldn't get them to be MP4, so I couldn't use them because I had to convert it and I didn't have time. But I'm gonna link the actual case file. I will link it in the description below after the show airs. And I highly suggest that you guys look at all. There was over 25 videos of this craft shot. Now I chose the 5 to 6 that were, I think the best, and I stabilized the footage so it didn't shake as much. But this case is I'm trying to find out who filmed it. I know his name, but I'm trying to locate him, and I want to work a project on this because I think I worked for a cruise liner, and this doesn't look like a cruise ship to me.
Yeah, that's the prevailing theory that people go with, is that
honestly,
it's like
that sounds
that front
insane.
portion.
Especially the angles aren't right. If you were at this angle, right, looking at a cruise ship from even a distance, say you're here,
Mhm.
right, and you're filming a cruise ship in the distance, it's going to be for a side view of the cruise ship. Even if there's a reflection, you'd see some features of a typical cruise ship, right? Banisters, something. But
It's literally
but you
flying in
don't.
the air.
And
You
why
don't.
is it
And
only
then-
that section on multiple occasions with changing conditions?
Yeah,
Is interesting.
and the fact that something is open in some of them, and you can kind of see 2 heads.
It's very
then-
odd.
Dude, I am blown away by this case in Turkey, and I am not sure why this hasn't been talked about more. I'm gonna be talking about it more. I'm digging into this one, and it sucks because I'm digging into a lot of cases right now.
Dr.
with, like-
Lear apparently saw it.
So I mentioned that in the video.
Yeah,
So
that's a very
Dr.
important point.
It is, because not only is he among the most credible ufologists, but he took implants out of people that was part of his project in the UFO field, was removing implants for people that claim to have been abducted and probed. You're not probed, but you know what I mean. So Lear was highly respectable, and he went down there after getting a couple copies of the video. This case was in the mainstream media over there for a while. He got wind of it. He went down, and then he saw the fucking thing. And it's just remarkable. It's a remarkable case. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on it.
Go ahead, Love.
Let's rattle off some of the things maybe it could be.
Like
What
from
would Mick West say?
Probably the cruise ship. I feel like he would potentially go with that theory just based on where it was, the conditions, etc. I can't, aside from a cruise ship, Ty, I got to be honest, I don't know what else it could be, because again, the angles, like everything you were saying, like this is out over the ocean, so I guess another kind of ship, like, but what would look like that?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
for real,
there's
like,
not many ships that look like that.
No,
and plus
That not a lot of ships are shaped as like a lenticular
right,
disc, right?
right,
And
right.
because not only would that not be buoyant, most likely, but And I bet that craft, if it really wanted to, could dive into the water and keep going.
Oh yeah, no, that looks like it.
But what another thing is, it does not show any of the 5 observables. Oh no, it doesn't show 4 observables. It shows 1, seemingly shows anti-gravity being able to, with no discernible means of propulsion. But it doesn't do any radical movements. It doesn't do any, but then you see the beings, and that brings it up to a whole nother thing.
Yeah, it's totally different. Well, my question would be, with all these other cases and photos throughout history, why was it just this one time, seemingly, that they were hovering up there, were looking out their, quote unquote window, for lack of a better term? Why? What were they doing? Like, if these were beings, what were they doing?
They showed up 3 years in a row at the same time.
Yeah, and that's the part of this story that gets missed a lot. Like, when I'm reading about other people's opinions on it on Reddit, nobody ever mentions the fact that this occurred. Like, a lot of people look at it and think this was just like over the course of like 3 days.
No,
they don't
this was
realize
3 years.
Right. And like,
this was
that's strange.
2007, 2008, and 2009.
Yeah, it's weird. That's weird. It's like,
Seeing
so what? The same cruise ship
craft
was out on the same water in the same exact spot with the same conditions that allowed it to look like that. It makes you wonder, man.
Well,
I don't think that was a boat.
There's other ones where the thing's fucking lit up. Like, lit up green.
Yes. Yeah. And there was another one I believe I saw that was from the 2007 incident where there were just lights, and they were like amberish, goldish yellow, and it was at dusk, I believe, and then like later on in the night the craft was visible, I believe.
Right.
There's footage of that.
The crazy thing is just calling it a cruise ship in the first place, knowing that thing is flying in midair. I've never.
Well, it's
seen
hard to. I don't know, because the angle that it was at.
You can't.
It's hard to tell.
You can't tell if it's in the air or the water just because of the angle. If he's looking, so if he's pointing the camera upward, then yes, we're looking at the sky. But if he's pointing the camera down towards the bay, then yeah. But we don't know the angle that he was taking it at, right? So, we're just going on the assumption that it is the air, but could possibly be in the water, right? And if it is in the water, then yeah, maybe we could talk about it being a ship. But that's why I want to go after this case. I want to know how he was holding the camera, where he was filming, how he was filming. I want to know all these things because I think that this could be smoking gun if we could get it confirmed.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
no, 100%.
Oh yeah, it would be really helpful if we could get some environmental data.
Did anyone request any of the flight radar logs? Did anyone request any of this information for this case?
I think that has happened. I'll have to check back with you on that one on Reddit. I'll try to go back into my files.
And you have to remember, what did Bob Lazar call the model that he was working on?
The sport model.
I'm just saying, right? Looked like they were in a convertible. Because the retracting roof. But that would also suggest that they were able to breathe our atmosphere, or at least handle our atmosphere. So that leads credence to the fact that the Greys might be more like AI, mechanical, robotic. Do you guys think the Greys are here as a working race? A lot of people that encounter them say that they feel very robotic in their actions.
Depends.
So
some people see Greys that
this.
seem organic, and some see Greys that seem very far from biological. So it's like, it's hard to say. It's like, is there a race of biological beings that look like the Greys that then also created a worker race of themselves?
Because they have like other things like the tall Greys, and then there's the small Greys.
The mantoids too.
Yeah.
They call the mantis race. there seems to be a lot of different beings that have that very similar look with the almond-shaped black eyes and the, you know, either pale white or an off yellow kind of skin color. So it's like, I think some of them might be more biological, and then some of them could be post-biological. It's a tough area of ufology to get into, because there's a lot there, and there's evidence for like all of it, which is why it's like, well, then maybe all of it's true.
What happens if
Yeah.
like extraterrestrials in nature are also animals?
We're all animals.
Right. Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm saying, like, what happens if they defy themselves? Like, because I think about it like this. I believe that we are all made up from the same material that has created this whole entire universe, the same matter. If we all come from the same universe, the same cosmos, wouldn't that mean that everything around us, right, is basically just the same as you and everything that's us and them? It doesn't, it like nothing takes away everything that was already made in the universe, because they were also made in it.
I get what you're saying. At this point, you know, when it comes to this entire topic, I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface of the knowledge that we are going to obtain through time, and that for us to assume or conclude anything at all about anything around us, how can we? We don't even know. We don't know what gravity is. We don't know what consciousness is. This is the universe. I think we know very, very little.
I mean, we landed on a foreign planet.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's what an accomplishment. But that we went to the moon. But it's like, dude, we're nowhere near where we're gonna be.
Yeah, and do you guys, Tom, can you do a little Twitter week promotion?
Sure.
Twitter week spiel, because I want to make sure we get that in.
Yeah.
About how we're hosting.
Yeah. So obviously, Astral, who is a good friend of the show at this point, has pretty much organized this whole week as UFO Twitter Week, March 1st through the 5th. I'm bringing up the flyer just so I have everything in front of me. So our appearance, so Ty and Astro are going to be doing a panel. Now, these are all going to be spaces on Twitter. Ty and Astral are going to be March 3rd, so that's tomorrow. It's an open panel at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's hosted by Ty and Astral, obviously. But then Sunday, the future of ufology at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be hosted by me and Ty. I would be joining.
Well, no. So, maybe you didn't get the memo.
I don't know. Yeah, I was going to say, I know there's been changes and stuff. So yeah, fill me in.
So, all right. There is, we are not allowed to tell anybody who is the guest on Sunday.
Right.
I know that sounds very Jeremy Corbell-ish, but
no, but
it's not. It's not my place. We were asked if we could switch slots and do Saturday night instead of Sunday night. However, we'd still be co-hosts on Sunday.
Right.
So we'll not be hosting it alone on Sunday, but now we also have a Saturday slot, a Friday, Saturday slot. So I'll be doing Friday and Saturday. And Saturday, if you can join, you can join. If you can't, you can't. But then Sunday, you'll be co-hosting along with me. But Holly is actually the main host.
Holly's the main host on Sunday?
Yeah, and I promise everybody, you are going to want to be there.
Yeah, especially on Sunday. Yes, absolutely.
Especially on Sunday.
I can confirm that.
Please don't miss out. That's all I'm gonna say.
Are the times updated now? So like what? So the one on Sunday is
6
7.
o'clock.
Oh, it's
No,
a
it was
6.
6.
Okay.
So
What about
Sunday was a
Saturday?
6er. I believe both weekends are on 6.
Okay, so yeah, I'll be able to make it for. I might be able to cut it close and make it for
Well,
the Saturday too.
Caleb Bench from The Secrets of
Mhm.
Skinwalker.
Yeah.
He's my guest for Saturday.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Our guest for Saturday. So that's going to be cool. Friday is more of an open panel.
Mhm.
So we're going to discuss. We'll probably get into a lot of the stuff that we did here tonight, but plus more. And it's going to be so fun to see who shows up. I guarantee Mick will be there. So it's going to be really fun. And then guys, where can they find you on social media? Let's start with Love is Perspective.
You can find me on
You need
Love
to
is Perspective.
pause. You need to make like an avatar.
Oh yeah, I really do, man. I'm so sorry.
I can make you something if you want. I can whip you. If you
Yeah,
don't
let's
have
whip.
time, I can whip something up.
Let's get him something whipped up because
Yeah.
I'd at least want a picture on there.
Let me know what you want, and
All
I'll
right.
post show, and I'll see what I can do.
Thank
Well,
you,
we'll
man.
talk after the show ends.
Yeah, for sure.
All
All right, continue. Sorry.
Oh, you can find me on Love is Perspective or on Instagram or Exterior Knowledge on YouTube.
That's spelled a certain way though, too, right?
Yeah, XTER. Yeah, exterior, like just with the X though, just eliminate the EX.
Gotcha.
All right, Tommy.
And then you can find me on Twitter. I'm very active at Atomic Thomas. Just change the O's to zeros. And I am Cortex Zero on YouTube. And obviously, you see me here on Total Disclosure when Ty's live. And then I hope to see you guys. I wish I could be a part of more of the days for UFO Twitter Week, but I will hopefully see some of you guys on Sunday. And I just want to echo the sentiment that Ty said. You will absolutely not want to miss Sunday for our special guest. You will absolutely want to be there.
Hell yeah. And guys, thank you so much for all your support during this endeavor. I can't thank you enough. Truly from the bottom of my heart. I never thought that the podcast, when I switched from movie content, I was super scared because I was basically starting over. This community has welcomed me with open arms. And it's truly something, a camaraderie that I have not felt in a long time. With not to make him blush or anything, but Tom, like such a great guy, always willing to help. If I say I'm going live and I give him a 12-minute notice, he's there. The guy is he's absolutely, dedicated to his craft, and I subscribe to his channel, man. It's worth it. I'll be over there. He'll be over here. It's going to be a good old time, and he deserves it because he puts a lot of work in after working a rigorous job where he moves furniture all day. So then he comes home and he sits here with us. So again, people don't realize that, for the watchers, the listeners, yeah, you get to listen and you're listening at work, and it goes hand in hand. But we go to work and then we come here, shoot the show. You know what I mean? So we're putting the work in. Super chats are always open on live Wednesdays or Thursdays on YouTube. And then the podcast is going to be exclusive to podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, and anything, any podcast platform. Spotify will have video. So the video won't go anywhere, but you have to watch on Spotify for video. And it truly would mean a lot to me if you could leave a rating and a review on Spotify, on Apple, and I believe you can now on Google Podcasts as well, but I'm not sure. So that always helps us. It gets us noticed by new people and helps the algorithm as much as you can share and like and subscribe. And I won't bore you to death with this anymore. What a great show. What a great show. And I promised, so I want to read this. This is from me to you, Mick. I hope you like it. While Mick West's approach to investigating alleged UFO sightings is grounded in scientific methodology and critical thinking, some critics argue his methods may not always be entirely objective or comprehensive. One of the main criticisms of West's work is that he sometimes relies too heavily on the natural explanation for observed phenomena, without considering the possibility that the sightings could be genuine. In some cases, his explanations may seem overly simplistic, and he may fail to account for all available evidence. Another critique is that West's investigations often focus on technical details and may overlook other factors that could contribute to a sighting, such as witness testimony, which, if it can be used in a court of law, I don't understand why, he makes it out to be like it's this non-reliable source of information. I'm sorry, I lost my place. In cultural context, skeptics argue that these factors can be just as important in determining the veracity of a sighting as technical analysis. Furthermore, some skeptics accuse West of cherry-picking evidence. We've talked about that all day. To support his conclusions and ignoring the data that contradicts his theories. Others argue that his conclusions are sometimes based on incomplete or flawed data, which could lead to inaccurate conclusions. Finally, some critics accuse West of being biased against the possibility of a non-human intelligence, which could affect his investigations and conclusions. When you start from the back end and work your way forward, you're starting from a not neutral perspective like a scientist would or like a journalist would. In conclusion, while Mick West's methods are generally based on scientific methodology and critical thinking, they are not without their critics. Some argue that his investigations may not allow entirely objective or comprehensive, and that he may overlook important factors. Critics also suggest that his investigations... Oh, I just read that. Sorry, I apparently deleted a paragraph, but I know it. In conclusion, we as a UFO community are going to need skeptics and critical thinkers. I've reiterated this so many times during the show. However, I think Mick and Stephen Greenstreet and even John Greenwald, with all the great work he does, you're not necessarily skeptics. What you are is you have a grudge against this community for some reason, or you don't want to go through a paradigm change. You don't even want to. I think you're scared. I'm sorry. I'm going to break it down. I think you're scared that there might be something else out there, and I think it's hindering your ability to accept this. So my advice to you is rub some dirt in it. It's coming, whether you like it or not. Guys, we'll see you next time. This Saturday, Caleb Bench joins us for a Twitter space for UFO Twitter Week. Sunday, Andy from That UFO Podcast will be on the show after recovering from a little sickness. And then we'll be back on next Wednesday with Vinny Adams from the Disclosure Team live on YouTube. So we're giving you the best of both worlds. I'm keeping the platforms videos separate so that, there's some exclusivity and I can get, people to engage on all of our platforms, not just YouTube, not just Spotify, so that, you'll have a reason to go to YouTube and watch our Wednesday video because it won't be on Spotify. So that's my thinking. and Spotify is the next big thing. So, let's get on that bandwagon as quick as we can. Guys, we'll see you next time. I truly love you all. And I don't know what I'd do without you guys. You are the lifeblood of this show. Thank you, everyone who gave super chats tonight, too. You guys are amazing.